back from spring break. Before spring break, we learned about leprechauns and that leprechauns are little. Today, we are going to read a story that talks about big and little. When something is big, it's humongous, enormous, gigantic. And when something is little, we can call it small or teeny tiny. This story is the song of the teeny tiny mosquito. The author who wrote the words is Alma Flor Ada. The illustrator who drew the pictures is Vivi Escriva. When we look on the front, we can see the characters in this story. The characters in this story are a frog and a mosquito. At the crack of dawn, perched on a log, a mosquito came into view of a frog. The frog, with a howdy-hi-ho, opened his mouth and took a big gulp. Bye-bye, tiny mosquito. Not thinking for a minute he'd done anything wrong, the frog patted his stomach and burst into song. But his bog mates shouted, not a single bravissimo, for instead deep bass notes they heard other sounds, the buzzes and squeaks of a teeny tiny mosquito. By mid-morning, the frog had only one wish, not to be eaten by a hungry fish. This was the frog, as I'm sure you know, who at the crack of dawn gulped down a teeny tiny mosquito. Not thinking for a minute she'd done anything wrong, the fish raised her fin and burst into song. But her sea-fearing friend shouted not a single bravissimo, for instead of high fish notes, they heard other sounds, the buzzes and squeaks of a teeny tiny mosquito. With the clock chiming noon, the fish had bad luck. She landed kerplunk in the jaws of a duck. This was the fish, as I'm sure you know, who at mid-morning had eaten the frog, who at the crack of dawn had gulped down a teeny tiny mosquito. Not thinking for a minute he'd done anything wrong, the duck opened his bill and burst into song. But his feathered friend shouted not a single bravissimo, for instead of loud quack-quacks, they heard other sounds, the buzzes and squeaks of a teeny tiny mosquito. When dusk came, the duck's life had changed in style. How different things look in a crocodile! This was the duck, as I'm sure you know, who at noon had eaten the fish, who at mid-morning had eaten the frog, who at the crack of dawn had gulped down a teeny tiny mosquito. Not thinking for a minute she'd done anything wrong, the croc raised her snout and burst into song. But her thick-skinned friends shouted not a single bravissimo, for instead of low croc notes, they heard other sounds, the buzzes and squeaks of a teeny tiny mosquito. Everything shone brightly by the light of the moon as it hung in the sky above the lagoon. With a pain in her belly, the croc was soon struck, so badly, in fact, she coughed up a duck. This was the duck, as I'm sure you know, who had eaten the fish, who at mid-morning had eaten the frog, who at the crack of dawn had gulped down a teeny tiny mosquito. The stars came out before anyone spoke. In a short while, the duck awoke. His stomach ached and he was feverish. To the surprise of his friends, he coughed up a fish. This was the fish, as I'm sure you know, who at mid-morning had eaten the frog, who at the crack of dawn had gulped down a teeny tiny mosquito. On that starry night, without a trace of frog, the fish squirmed in pain and coughed up a frog. This was the frog, I'm sure you know, who at the crack of dawn had gulped down a teeny tiny mosquito. Frog opened his mouth, a gigantic affair, and the happy mosquito took off in the air. Many buzzes and squeaks and a howdy-hi-ho, with a bye-bye froggy thrown in, as the tiny mosquito shot into the sky on his merry way, buzzing and squeaking to this very day. And ear-splitting shouts of bravissimo are heard after each song of the teeny tiny mosquito. So we saw that in this story, every animal gets eaten by an even bigger animal. We know that things can be different sizes. So today, I would like you to draw some small animals and some big animals you would see at a pond, just like in this story. So remember, we're working on drawing detailed pictures that use at least 3 colors. The first thing we're going to do is make a blue pond. Around the blue pond, I'm going to add some gray rocks. Here's one gray rock. Here's another gray rock. And we'll add some more little gray rocks down here. Nice. Our pond has gray rocks around it. And I'm going to add a sun in the sky. Our sun is a yellow circle. Nice. I love drawing the sun on all my pictures because the sun makes me happy. Okay. In the pond, I am going to draw a fish. I'm going to draw a small fish and a big fish. Here is my small fish, and here is my big fish. And I am going to draw a big open mouth on my big fish. And I'm going to draw a small mouth on my little fish. So I drew a big fish and a little fish. I am also going to draw a frog. We learned about a frog living in a pond at this story. So I'm going to draw a frog on a rock. Here is my frog on a rock. My frog. Okay, my frog has 2 little legs. Nice. I have a frog, I have a big fish, a little fish. I remember in our story there was also a duck. So let's try to draw a duck. We can make our duck yellow, or we can make our duck green. I'm going to make our duck yellow this time. Here is a duck. I'm going to draw its body and its beak. A duck, a big fish, a little fish, a frog. Oh, and I remember in our story there was a mosquito, so I'm going to draw some teeny tiny mosquitoes flying around. Mosquitoes are small, so we can make them really small, just flying around in different areas around the pond. So I drew 3 tiny mosquitoes, 1 big fish, 1 small fish, a duck, a frog. I forgot to draw an alligator. Alligators are big. They are humongous. So we are going to draw a big long tail and a big strong body and 4 legs on our alligator and a big snapping face. This is a big alligator. So I drew some big things that live in the pond, like an alligator, a big fish, and a duck, and some little things that live in the pond. I can't wait to see what you draw, and remember to always put your name on your paper. My name is Miss Conley. I can't wait to see you soon. Goodbye.